So what I would like to talk about today is pretty much the only topic anybody in the West making videos about Zen and Buddhism should ever address. Okay, I can't believe I've never done it before. Are you ready? It is it's hard to get my mind around it and to put it precisely because it's a very precise topic, and it is, we've got let's take two concepts and let's put them against each other. Let's unpack them a little bit and talk about them. These two concepts are, in Buddhism, there is this teaching of no self. So you have no self on the one hand, and then all the way over here on the other hand, you have this concept in the West and in psychology of having a healthy sense of self. I know in my heart of hearts what it means to have a strong, healthy sense of self. So, yet I'm a Zen Buddhist practitioner who talks about and tries to practice no self. So how are these two concepts compatible? No self and a strong, healthy sense of self. That's the topic of today's video. So first of all, what is a self? Well, good question. There is this activity that seems to be in the outside world. And there's this activity in the inside world. And let's just say the self is right at the border where these two worlds meet. It's the interpenetration or the crossover point of these two worlds, inside and outside. The human self, human consciousness, human self-awareness is a really rich, unique, and complex intersection of these two worlds. Like, it's so unique and complex that that intersection actually becomes aware of itself. So there's a very specific reason that I want us to think of the self as this interpenetration between inside world and outside world. It's because generally we tend to think of ourselves as living in or trapped in the inside. And then we tend to identify as all those thoughts and feelings and insecurities and ambitions. We identify as those things. So it's us over here on the inside, outside world over there on the outside. But what's so beautiful about this Buddhist idea is no, we are also the outside world. That's half outside and then the inside. They interpenetrate, and that's the self. It arises as a kind of friction or overlapping of the inside and outside. So now we have a situation which is we are not fundamentally separate or alienated from the outside world. That's a really healthy place to start this question of healthy sense of self versus no self. Perhaps then a healthy sense of self is a balance between your outside world and your inside world. You have a sense that you belong and that you're worthy of love. You're not a doormat, and you're not easily swayable by other people's opinions. You can speak your piece and not worry that your whole world is going to fall apart. You can stand your ground. It's almost easier to lay out what a not healthy sense of self would be. Low self-esteem, chronic self-analysis, and like high neuroticism. Overall, a sense of dis-ease, a strong sense of not belonging, or sticking out like a sore thumb in a situation. And I guess this is the point I would like to rest upon when it comes to having a healthy self-esteem and a not healthy self-esteem. A healthy self-esteem, you don't notice. Everything is locked into place, working, you're in the zone, you're in the groove, what's that thing that they say now? Flow state, you're flowing, right? But when you don't have a healthy self-esteem, you're always aware of yourself. You're always aware of yourself. It's like my pinky. If I break my pinky, it hurts, and I'm always aware of it, right? When I have an unhealthy sense of self, I'm always aware of it. And this is really important. It's been important for me in my own personal life, and it's important within the Buddhist schema of things. When I was in high school, I did not have a healthy, strong, well-developed sense of self. And I became absolutely obsessed with self-help. My dad was starting his business, and he was like putting everything that he had in it, and he needed every resource he could gather in order to marshal his inner energy and conquer the business world by himself. So he would get all these self-help tapes from this company called Earl Nightingale. And when we were driving to my high school, I still remember the portfolio that these tapes came in, and there was like this very elegant plastic casing, and you would open it up, and each self-help cassette was laid out inside like the Book of Job, and we would put it in to the cassette player, and we would listen. And these self-help guys, they had voices like this. What is the one thing you have control over in this world? It is your effort. It is your willingness to give. What value are you bringing to a situation? This is how you will rise to the top of the business world. I wanted to play basketball and be like a really great basketball player. I played basketball. I was terrible. I was absolutely terrible at it. I would get out on the floor, and the girl that I had a crush on is in the stands, and the band is playing, and everybody's parents are out there, and teachers, and my teammates are on the bench over here, and I would just freeze. I would just freeze. I felt all these eyes on me, and I couldn't play. I was absolutely terrible at this sport, and it was so frustrating to me because I knew that the problem was in here. And so I used these self-help tapes, techniques, as a tool to try and fix my inner world, right? So I would listen to the tapes, and then I would try and consciously apply the lessons. Okay, I need to work really hard and have this kind of an attitude going in. So I would listen to a whole self-help series, and then I would take that guy's ideas, and I would try and digest it and become it. But it never, ever, ever worked. I'd catch the basketball, and I'd be thinking, okay, well, now's the time to do, boom, the guy would steal the ball from me, run down the court, and score. So then I thought, well, maybe the problem is my subconscious. So I started getting subconscious self-help tapes. Now, how these work is, you put the tape in, and all you hear is like crashing ocean waves and seagulls chattering, and it's like you're on a beach. Beneath the surface, beneath the conscious level of hearing, there are subconscious messages, right? And it's like, you're great. I don't know what they were, but one of my tapes was Be Confident, because I really needed and wanted confidence. So I'd listen to that confidence tape over and over and over, right? Because I couldn't program myself on a conscious level with the self-help tapes, so I tried to use the subconscious self-help tapes to program myself on a subconscious level. That's how desperate I was. But needless to say, the subconscious self-help tapes didn't really work either. And I never made it to the NBA, which was my goal. The reason I bring this up is not to humiliate myself, but to point out how difficult and deep a problem it can be to actually have something basic, which is to feel good about yourself. By the time I finally found Zen, I was at the end of my self-improvement rope. Like, I had tried everything in order to make myself into the kind of person that I wanted to be. There's a very, very deep, and for me, salvific insight or teaching at the core of Buddhism. When I heard that I have no permanent fixed identity within, that allowed me to take the energy that was trapped inside here between these two ears, it allowed it to flow out into the world. And when that energy flowed out into the world through what my teacher called making relationship, I was able to have a better relationship with the world. I gave more to the world, and the world gave more back to me. My teacher, my peers, and the practice itself were very clear on what my job was. My job was to forget about myself, to forget the self completely. Paradoxically, and this is like at the heart of Zen, the more you forget yourself, the healthier your sense of self becomes. It's kind of like happiness, right? You can't actively, consciously pursue happiness. Happiness is a byproduct or a side effect of decisions made and a life lived a certain way. I think the same thing holds true, at least in my case, for a healthy sense of self. You can't pursue it as I was, consciously and directly. You just wind up like the dog chasing its own tail. Just to recap, because we've covered a lot of complex, paradoxical topics in this short video, the Zen that I studied has a specific notion of the self. It is outside world and inside world interpenetrate through our sensorium. The self is arising out of this interpenetration and dissolving back into this interpenetration. We have all this energy and this love and these appetites and these desires on the inside, right? They're there. And in the outside world, it's a world that needs our love, our energy, our ambitions, and has food, shelter, love, warmth, things that we need. And so we negotiate. That's all life is. We negotiate. It's back and forth between inside and outside. From the Zen perspective, then, when you forget yourself, the barrier between inside and outside is gone, and the negotiation is much more smooth, right? There's nothing standing in the way between inside and outside easily interacting. And when you get out of your own way and forget yourself, then you can give your clean best. If you succeed or you fail, it doesn't matter. You did your best, right? You were honest. You gave. You gave yourself. Gave yourself away. Thank you for paying attention to this video, making it to the end. If you'd like to support this channel, I've got a link in the video description to my Patreon page, as well as a link to my PayPal page. We've been getting more people over on Patreon and also people supporting on PayPal. It's really appreciated. I'm doing this more and more as my full-time gig. I'm putting more energy and effort into like thinking these videos through before I used to just get up and just expunge a monologue, and then it would take me like 8 hours to edit it together. But I'm starting to think these things through more, starting to think about what I want to say and how I want to say it. And the only reason I have the confidence or the energy to do this is because you guys are supporting me and you're giving back. So thank you. If there's anything you'd like me to talk about in these videos, I love to get suggestions. You can find me on showzonjackhobner@gmail.com. Shoot me some suggestions. Until next time, love ya.